I would like to introduce Kanika Medora. She's our main presenter today, and she serves as the Area Work Incentive Coordinator for the Bay Area Social Security. Kanika began her career with the Social Security Administration in 2009 as a claims specialist in Southern California. She was then promoted to an automation training specialist after completing a special assignment in the central office and has continued to grow her career within the Social Security Administration. So with that, I would like to thank Kanika so much for being here today, and I'll go ahead and pass it on to her for her presentation.
Thank you, Julian, and thank you, Brian, for sharing your story. I'm going to be going over work incentives with you today, and I'm so excited to be presenting and doing an overview on this subject because it's such an important one for individuals who are currently receiving disability benefits and working, or for those who are going to be working in the future, planning to work. This is going to be so helpful for you, and I hope you'll be able to ask us any questions that you have at the end. And with that, we can move on to the next slide, Grace. Just a brief disclaimer, the material in this presentation has been prepared by the Social Security Administration's Public Affairs Office and is intended for educational purposes only. Participation in this presentation does not constitute an endorsement by the Social Security Administration or its employees of the organizations and information and products not provided by SSA. Here's a brief agenda. I have divided up today's overview in three categories, really. So we'll be going over work incentives that are first applicable for both Social Security programs, that's Social Security Disability and Supplemental Security Income. The second category would be work incentives that are specific or applicable only to Social Security Disability. And the third or last category would be Supplemental Security Income specific work incentives that only apply to that category. Because we'll be doing an overview of multiple work incentives across the board in all programs, I just want to make sure that you are aware of the Red Book that is available on our website, ssa.gov. So all of the work incentives that I'm going to be going over today are listed in the Red Book. They go into much more detail, further explanations, as well as examples of all work incentives. So I highly encourage keeping that handy. It's a valuable resource and great self-help guide. So let's go ahead and get started. What are work incentives and how do they help? One of Social Security's highest priorities is to help individuals with disabilities who want to work. There are policies and services in place to help you reach your employment goals. Both programs, so that's Social Security Disability, or SSDI, and Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, include employment support provisions, more commonly known as work incentives, that help to protect monetary and medical benefits while you work. Now, Social Security Disability work incentives provide help over a period of time. In general, you have at least 9 years to test your ability to work. This includes full benefits during the first 12 months of work activity, then a 36-month re-entitlement period, and finally a 5-year reinstatement period in case your work stops. For SSI work incentives, these offer ways to continue receiving your SSI and Medi-Cal coverage while you work. If you can't receive SSI payments because your earnings are too high, your eligibility for Medi-Cal will continue while you're working. In most cases, if you lose your job or you become unable to continue working, you can begin receiving payments again without a new application. Now, here's the complete list of work incentives that are applicable for both programs, so SSDI and SSI work incentives. They include subsidies, special conditions, impairment-related work expenses, or IRWEs, the Plan to Achieve Self-Support, or PASS, Section 301, or Continued Payment under Vocational Rehabilitation, and Expedited Reinstatement, or EXR. I'll be going over each of these in the upcoming slides. So to begin with, subsidies and special conditions. Subsidies are a support that's provided by your employer that may result in you receiving more pay than the actual value of the services that you perform. For example, sheltered employment provided for individuals with disabilities in a protected environment under an institutional program. Special conditions. Now, this is support and on-the-job assistance provided by your employer or someone other than your employer, such as a job coach through a vocational rehabilitation agency. Now, how can you tell if a subsidy or a special condition applies to you? There are some indicators. If you receive more supervision than other workers doing a similar job for the same pay, if you have fewer or simpler tasks to complete than others doing the same job for the same pay, if you're given additional or longer paid breaks than others doing the same job for the same pay, or if you have a job coach or mentor who helps you to perform some of your work. Moving on to income-related work expenses, or IRWEs. Now, these are the costs of certain impairment-related items and services needed to work, which may be excluded when determining countable income. The requirements to be counted as an IRWE, or an impairment-related work expense, are the following. First, the item or service enables you to work. Second, you need the item or service because of a physical or mental impairment. Third, you pay for the item or service and are not reimbursed by any other source, such as Medi-Cal, Medicare, or another health insurance provider. And finally, the cost is reasonable and represents the standard for that item or service in your community. Now, here are just a few examples of IRWEs. Transportation costs, service animals, prescription drugs, attendant care services, medical devices, prosthesis, and residential modifications. And the Red Book actually gives great examples about the deductibles that would apply or be applicable for IRWEs and those that would not be. So I highly encourage looking at the Red Book when it comes to these specific examples. The Plan to Achieve Self-Support, or PASS. A PASS allows you to set aside other income besides your benefits to pursue a work goal that will reduce or eventually eliminate the need for supplemental security income or Social Security disability benefits that you receive. This income or resources set aside under a PASS will not be counted in determining your SSI eligibility. The important thing to note is that some of the PASS, some of the expenses can go towards things like education, vocational training, work-related needs, as well as assistive technology. Now, the PASS requirements are the following. The PASS must be designed specifically for you, specific to your unique situation. It must be in writing, on a Social Security form is preferred. That's the SSA 545. It should have a specific work goal and a specific time frame to reach that work goal. It should share how the money you've set aside will be kept separate from other funds. It should be approved by Social Security. And it should be reviewed periodically by Social Security to assure that the plan is helping to to ensure that you're making progress towards your goal. Section 301, or continued payment under vocational rehabilitation. Now, there are several aspects to this work incentive. To qualify, you must be participating in an appropriate vocational rehabilitation program or a similar service that began while on disability. Also, we must review the program. So Social Security must review the program and decide that your continued participation in that program will eventually increase your independence from disability benefits through Social Security. Appropriate vocational rehabilitation programs can include an individualized education program, or IEP, for an individual from age 18 to 21, the Ticket to Work program, a vocational rehabilitation agency using an individualized plan for employment, or an IPE, and a plan to achieve self-support, the path that we just went over. Now, how long do benefits continue, or how long can benefits continue? They can continue until you complete your program, or your participation in the program stops, or your continued participation in the program is not likely to lead to the independence, your independence from disability benefits through Social Security. Moving on to expedited reinstatement, or EXR. Now, if you stopped receiving benefits due to your work, we may be able to restart them within a 5-year period of when they stop. The EXR provision allows you to receive up to 6 months of temporary cash benefits while we conduct a medical review to decide if we can reinstate your benefits. At that time, you may also be eligible for Medicare or Medi-Cal during the provisional benefit period. You are eligible to request for an EXR if you meet all of the following requirements. First, your previous entitlement to Social Security disability benefits terminated due to performance of SGA, SGA being substantial gainful activity, or your previous SSI disability or blindness eligibility terminated because of excess earned income or a combination of earned and unearned income. You're unable or become unable to perform SGA due to your medical condition. Your current medical impairment is the same as or related to your original disabling impairment. And you request EXR within 5 years from the month that your benefits stopped. Okay, so these are now work incentives that are specific or applicable only to the Social Security Disability or SSDI program. They include the trial work period, or TWP, the unsuccessful work attempt, or UWA, the extended period of earnings, or EPE, unincurred business expenses made by others to your self-employment business effort, and Medicare coverage for it to continue for 93 months after the TWP ends. And we'll be going over the first three, the TWP, UWA, and EPE. So the trial work period is really where it starts. That's your moment to test out trying to work. It's up to a 9-month period, and it does not need to be consecutive. It should occur within a 60-month rolling period overall. To be counted as a TWP month, there is no maximum amount of earnings, but there is a minimum threshold. and that minimum threshold changes each year. For this year, 2024, that minimum is $1,110 a month. So earnings need to be a minimum of that amount to be counted as one of the 9 TWP months. It's important to note that during the TWP, the trial work period, we do not evaluate unsuccessful work attempts, subsidies, or impairment-related work expenses. So basically, we do not look at any other work incentives during that 9-month trial work period. Now, moving on to the unsuccessful work attempt. The unsuccessful work attempt, or UWA, is an effort to do substantial work that discontinues or reduces to below substantial levels, below SGA levels after a short period of time. And that short time is defined as no more than 6 months. And it reduces, or your work reduces, your earnings reduce because of your impairment or the removal of special conditions related to your impairment. Moving on to the extended period of earnings, or EPE. Now, this is once you've tried working and you would like to continue to work. The EPE is what comes after the 9-month trial work period. The EPE is 36 consecutive months, starting with the month after the 9th TWP month. It's during this 36-month re-entitlement period where you get benefits for any months that you are not working and earning above SGA, above substantial gainful activity. We suspend cash benefits for any months that your earnings are over substantial gainful activity. And then if your earnings fall below the SGA levels again during this re-entitlement period, we can start your benefits again. Now, can you continue to receive benefits after the 36-month re-entitlement period ends? If you're not working above SGA at that time, at the end of those 36 months, you are eligible for a benefit payment for the 37th month of your EPE. So you'll continue to receive benefits until you work a month that is over substantial gainful activity, or you medically recover. What happens if you work after the re-entitlement period ends? Your benefits will end if you work above SGA after the 36-month re-entitlement period. However, you may be able to start your benefits again if you stop working within the next 5 years. And that 5-year period of time is the expedited reinstatement that we had previously gone over. The EXR really serves as your safety net there. So if you're unable to work due to your conditions going forward after the EPE ends, you have those 5 years to file for EXR, receive your temporary cash benefits for 6 months while we do another medical evaluation to restart your benefits. Supplemental security income, or SSI only work incentives, include the following. So earned income exclusion. This is the exclusion where less than half of your earnings are counted. So just to give you an example, if monthly earnings are $565, we would reduce 65 as a general earned income exclusion. So you have $500 left in a month for your income. And then we take half of that, so $250, and we count that for SSI as your countable earned income. I'm going to be going over student earned income exclusion as well as blind work expenses in the next few slides. But before that, I'm just going to cover a couple more things. You do have the option for your Medi-Cal coverage to continue. And there are resource exclusions. So the Individual Development Account, or IDA, as well as the Achieving a Better Life Experience, or ABLE account. To go into each of these accounts a bit that serve as resource exclusions, the IDA is a trust-like bank account that help save earnings to go to school, buy a home, or start a business. When you make a deposit to the account, a participating nonprofit matches your deposit, and so does the federal government. The ABLE account is, the ABLE account is a tax-advantaged savings account to save funds for disability-related expenses. Anyone can contribute to this account, a family member, friends, etc., and the resource exclusion goes up to $100,000 for that account. And we'll be going over SEIE as well as BWEs next. So the Student Earned Income Exclusion, or SEIE, who qualifies for SEIE? All working students under the age of 22 who are regularly attending school qualify to receive a Student Earned Income Exclusion. Now, what does regularly attending school mean? Regularly attending school means that you are going to school for at least 12 hours per week for grades 7 through 12. If you're attending school, receiving education online, or being homeschooled per state laws. It could mean at least 8 hours per week in college, or 12 to 15 hours per week for training courses involving shop practice that are designed to prepare the student for a paying job. Or it could mean studying courses given by a school, college, or government agency while homebound due to a disabling condition. Now, for SEIE, you would just need to provide information in terms of which school you're going to, contact information, as well as, the hours of enrollment, the courses of study, and we should go ahead and be able to exclude the student earned income. Blind work expenses, or BWEs. So we do not count any earned income that you use to meet expenses that are necessary to earn that income when we decide if you are eligible for SSI and calculate your payment amount. To qualify, you must be eligible for SSI based on blindness. Some examples of blind work expenses include service animal expenses, transportation to and from work, federal, state, and local income taxes, Social Security taxes, attendant care services, visual and sensory aids, translation of materials into Braille, professional association fees, union dues, and there are others. There are specific employment supports that are available to assist in all of these work incentives. So along with the work incentives that I've mentioned is the Ticket to Work program, which is a program for people with disabilities who want to work and participate in planning their employment. There are choices in obtaining employment and vocational rehabilitation services with the Ticket to Work. There's also the Job Accommodation Network, or JAN. JAN is a free, expert, and confidential guidance on workplace accommodations and disability employment issues. And then there are the American Job Centers, employment networks, and vocational rehabilitation agencies, which also provide services to help return to work. You can always request further assistance as well, and for information from your area work incentive coordinator. That would be me. You can request benefit planning queries or BPQYs, and those give you information on the kind of benefits that you're receiving, if you've used any work incentives, if you've had a trial work period, if you have health benefits, etc. It's a wealth of information. There are also work incentive liaisons available, or WILs, at each Social Security office. There are also resources to assist youth with the transition to a successful adulthood. And the Red Book is, again, a great resource for those. It lists in detail all of the resources that would be available to youth to help them make that transition. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Grace.
Thank you, Kanika. So here on this slide, we just wanted to touch on our Social Security website. The Social Security website is a valuable resource of information about all of Social Security's programs, and it's accessible from your computer, tablet, your smartphone. It's been redesigned with the user in mind for clearer information, more readily how do I say, just easier to find things, right? The search function is excellent, and the way that the different topics are separated and categorized helps you just find information a lot more easily. Now, we wanted to highlight the landing page, because if you scroll down towards the bottom, there are other resources there that you might not find, that you might not notice. So down here under support, you can see we circled here in yellow the publication. So any publication or pamphlet that Social Security has, you can find there. It'll be housed there. So once you click on that link, you're going to come to this page. And again, you see that there is also a search function. If you know the title of the publication or the number of it, or if you don't know either, you can just put in a keyword. And once you type it in, it will pop up any relevant or matching publications that we have available. Now on the right column here, you can see there is an option for audio to download the PDF. And some of the publications even offer other languages. Now you can see here on the next slide, we just typed in self, and that immediately brings up publications regarding self-employment, the PASS program, as well as the Red Book. So there is a wealth of information available online. All of the information that Kanika shared and went into, like she mentioned, is available in the Red Book, which is also can be found on our website. So feel free to go through our website when you have questions. The search page, again, is very good at matching with different articles, policy, even things from our blog to match the information that you're looking for. So with that, we are going to go into some questions here that we received. And then I believe that Julian or Tish will help us with any questions that might still be in the Q&A. And thank you, Tish, for answering all of the ones that we've gotten. That's a really great help. So the first one here, how can I get information on the type of benefits I receive?
So that first question it's a good one. You can actually receive information about the type of benefits you receive by contacting your local office, by going online through your MySSA account, or requesting that BPQY, the benefits plan inquiry that I had mentioned earlier.
Great. And number 2 here, I received SSDI benefits and had some past work. How can I tell if I have used any work incentives?
So that same way, Grace, we would be looking into getting that BPQY or speaking to a WIL, your work incentive liaison in your local office, who can walk you through the information that has been provided on your record.
Great, great, thank you, Kanika. And number 3, where can I go to get help understanding how these work incentives might apply to my situation? And I'll go ahead and take this one. I believe in a previous slide, Kanika did list the different resources available if you needed assistance with your work activity or to help understand the work incentives a little bit better and how they apply to you specifically. And one of them is obviously the Red Book. If you are working with DOR or another employment network, Kanika, she's our area AWIC. She is definitely a great resource. And again, she did mention the WILs, or the Work Incentive Liaisons, that we have in each Social Security office. Our 800 number, and of course our website. Number 4, can these work incentives be claimed for wages? I have already reported in the past if my SSI check was already reduced and received. Now, it's a very interesting question. So I'm going to answer it in the way that I'm understanding it. So I'm going to assume that, you know, you've been reporting your work and your earnings. So based on your earnings, your SSI check was reduced. You later discover that there were some work incentives that you didn't realize applied to you. Let's say you realize there is an IRWI that wasn't considered, or some type of exclusion that was not considered. If that's the case, then you would have to contact Social Security and provide us that information. This would kind of be what we would call a non-medical appeal. You're appealing the decision that your benefit amount was lowered due to your wages because there were some work incentives or types of exclusions that weren't properly applied. Now, there is a time period for these type of actions. So you would want to contact your Social Security office. So it's not an immediate thing that would just happen overnight. You would want to contact Social Security and let them know of your situation so that you could provide proof or share more information in order to update that reduction amount or reduce it altogether if it shouldn't have been counted against your benefit check. Number 5 here. Do I need to be already receiving SSI to start a plan to achieve self-support? What types of expenses can be included in the path? And I know this was also on a slide, but I'll go ahead and pass that to Kanika just to reiterate here.
Thank you, Grace. So no, you don't need to already be receiving SSI to start a pass. You can do it at the time that you are applying to begin with. So when we are determining SSI eligibility, when you're on SSI or when you're applying to become eligible for SSI, either. What types of expenses can be included in a pass? So education expenses, assistive technology, vocational training, things that you need for work-related expenses. Those can all be included in a pass.
Great. Thank you, Kanika. And the last one here, Kanika, how do I report my wages to Social Security? And do I need to do it every month?
I can take that one, Grace. Thank you. So for SSI, you do need to do it every month. For Social Security disability, you need to report it every time there is a change to your work. So whether you start working, you stop working, something changes with your work. So you reduce your work, you increase your work hours, income, something changes. And you can do that for Social Security disability with an SSA 821 or SSA 820, which is a work activity report, indicating, you know, what your work is like, as well as any work incentives that apply. And the best way, I think, to do that is online, but you can also do it in person, over the phone, by mail or fax.
All right. And I know that we do have some questions in the chat, but before we go over to those, we just wanted, we wanted to encourage everyone that have not already to create their own My Social Security account. The My Social Security account allows you to really maximize the services without having to contact our 800 number or go into an office. It allows you to make changes. It allows you to update your information, get copies of your notices, if you need a printout of your benefits. And so if you haven't already, or if you have a friend or a family member that's collecting benefits or is a payee for an individual collecting benefits, we do want to encourage you to go ahead and create your My SSA account. All right, and I know in the past, Julian, you have, I should say, proctored the Q&A, but I am able to see it if you want me to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, Grace, it's whatever you feel most comfortable with. So I know you are pretty familiar with the Q&A feature. So if you'd like to go through it, you're able to, but I know I have both Kevin and Tish kind of monitoring that. So if you'd like them to kind of bring up the questions for you, we could do that as well.
Not a problem, thank you. I was just trying to be mindful of the time here. So I'm gonna go through them and
If I could just, there are multiple questions regarding a PASS plan and SSDI, right? So maybe we could sort of address that one.
Sure, I see that was the top one there from Jasmine. Hi, Kanika, can you explain how a PASS plan would benefit an SSDI only recipient?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So you're receiving a Social Security disability monthly benefit amount and you are working. Let's say you're making $700 a month and you would like to go to school. You are going to school to achieve a specific employment goal. And so that $700 can actually be put aside in the PASS plan if it's going towards expenses like school, like for example, tuition, books, whatever else applies for schooling. That's an example that would definitely apply.
Great, thank you. Now we have another question from Rebecca. Kanika, you mentioned that the subsidy and special conditions as a work incentive that applies to both SSDI and SSI. Doesn't subsidy and special conditions only apply to SSI at application for benefits?
No, we very much take into account subsidies and special conditions for Social Security disability as well, and definitely not only at the time of applying throughout. And it's most important actually because when you enter your EPE, that extended period of earnings for Social Security disability, we want to know things like that. If work incentives like subsidies or special conditions apply that reduce your actual monthly wages. That's really important for us to know while you're receiving Social Security disability as well as SSI.
Great, thank you. And Tish, is it okay if I just go down the rest of them, or is there one specific that you wanted to highlight?
No, that's fine. That's great, Grace. I just knew that there were several coming in about the PASS for SSDI in the chat as well. So thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, here we have a question from Winston, and this isn't necessarily about work incentives, but regarding the SSA website. The SSA account on the website has no bank account change option for direct deposit. Why does SSA say that you can go to ssa.gov to change your bank account? The tool has an option. I'm not sure if you're going through your My SSA account, like you're logging in. I apologize for my dog. But you should be able to, if you have direct deposit already, and you're just updating your bank information through your My SSA account. If you're not able to make those changes, you could have, I'm not sure if you have or not, but sometimes people put blocks, and that block will not allow you to make that change. The next question is from Linda. How do we contact Kanika?
It's a good question. You can always reach out, and I'm sure that Julian has, my contact information, whether it's via email or phone. Both are sufficient, and I'm happy to help.
Great, thank you, Kanika. The next question here from Brandon. I have been unable to get a clear answer from SSA on this question, and sometimes I get both answers. Is income counted in the month you worked for the income or the month that you received the income? Then he lists an example of a paycheck received on March 1st for pay period of 2/12 through 2/23. And Brandon, I apologize for the confusion. It is a great question. And I think that maybe you're getting different answers because it depends on what program you're collecting. So Kanika, please jump in if you have anything to add. But if you're a Title II or Social Security disability recipient, we count it for the month that it is earned. And if you are an SSI recipient, it is the month that it is received. And so both are true. And so, I apologize if you're getting misinformation. They may not be asking specifics about your specific situation. And that's why it can be a bit confusing. The next question here from Crystal. What happens if I report my wages properly and benefits are paid beyond the 9-month SGA? I can take this one if you want, Kanika, or if you want to jump in.
Go for it, Grace.
Unfortunately, what would happen is you would become overpaid. I think that's where you're trying to go with this question, Crystal. So you want to, you get a 2-month period after the 9 months as a grace period. And after that, if you are still getting your monthly benefits, and Social Security may not have updated your work activity, and so that's why you're continuing to get benefits. So you want to make sure you contact us to let us know that you are still earning over SGA, you are out of your child work period, so that we can update your work activity accordingly. The next question here from Randy. Can you please point me to the exact link on the SS website where wages can be reported? You actually have to have your MySSA account, so we can't technically show you that. Kanika, is there something that I see you might be thinking? Am I incorrect in that?
So yeah, you do need to have a MySSA account, login ID, an account set up through Social Security, so we can't show you the account. But when you get there, you're going to be looking for My Wage Report or My WR, and that is where you will report wages.
All right. Okay, great. We have some thank yous. You guys are very welcome. And then I do see a question here from Philip. Should I be reporting any expenses towards my applicable skills goal? I have been paying out of pocket for a boot camp platform that I use to practice computer programming skills while attending college.
I can take that, Grace. So that's also a really good detailed question. So I would definitely report the expenses. It's better to report them than not. You want to provide all of that information, all of those details to the person who's putting your path together and submitting it to make sure that they do or they don't apply. And you also want, you want to try to submit them. If they are applicable in your employment-related goal, and they are expenses that you are spending to reach that employment-related goal, then it's better to err on the safe side and report that information just in case.
All right, I see a couple more trickling in from Alicia. Can a person apply for the first time even though they were diagnosed when they were 5 years old and is now an adult? You can always apply for Social Security benefits as far as being based on a disabling condition. So you can file for disability or SSI disability. If you have a condition that prevents you from working and earning substantial gainful amount for at least 1 year or more. So yes, you can always file for benefits if your condition affects your ability to work. When trying to report earnings on MyFSA, it says there isn't an employer listed. So how do I report?
That is such a good question. So it first of all depends on what kind of benefits you're receiving through Social Security, whether it's supplemental security income or Social Security disability benefits, or if it's both. We want to make sure you need to report the information in terms of the employer, the dates of employment, the EIN for that employer, all of the specific information to your local office. Your local office will go ahead and input that information about your employer on your record so that you can go online and see that employer information on the system, and then you can go ahead and enter wages monthly.
Great. Thank you, Cynthia. The next one here, for those that fall within the special conditions category, is there a way to preemptively share information with SSI about receiving job coaching? And Kanika, please, again, just jump in if I'm wrong here, but I mean, you could contact us, but it hasn't happened yet. And so our ability to kind of keep track of that and know when it happens or what type of special conditions they're going to be would be a bit challenging for us to do that. So it's really best to do it once it's like, if you know it's about to start once and you have actual specifics, then you could probably do it preemptively. But if not, you'd want to wait till it starts and have that information available when you contact us.
Grace and Kanika, you guys are absolutely fantastic. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. You both are a wealth of knowledge, and I know all of our attendees, had tons and tons of questions for you guys, and I think it will, benefit everyone to kind of have those answers. So, really appreciate you guys taking the time to be here today.
Thank you so much for having us.
And I think a really great transition point for this is, with all the great information that Grace and Kanika answered, there were so many questions involved about how would that apply to me in my specific situation, depending on how old you are, how long you've been working, if you've had past work experience. And it can be very difficult to kind of understand what that next step might be. So what I wanted to do now is introduce our next guest speaker. It's Goli Ayahi. She is a work incentive planner here at the Department of Rehabilitation and is going to be speaking a little bit about our services here.
Thanks, Julian.
Thank you for joining us today. So Goli, I just wanted to start by, could you tell us a little bit about your role as a work incentive planner?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, work incentive planner or WIP. Our goal here is to help with planning or providing benefit counseling to participants who receive disability benefits through Social Security. WIPs provide in-depth, personalized, and accurate guidance to help people take advantage of work incentives or work rules that are set about by Social Security, and making sure that when they are receiving services through DOR, they're not at risk of losing their benefits. So all WIPs are available throughout the state of California. We all work for Department of Rehabilitation. We're part of the service team that serves individuals who are the participants that are signed up for the DOR program.
Yeah, so I mean, just based on what you're saying, it's a really great way to get help understanding how a lot of these different disability programs and work incentives can apply to you or to each beneficiary. So you're able to work with them one-on-one to kind of help answer that. So that's really great. So I think with that said, I bet a lot of our attendees are kind of wondering, how can a work incentive planner help them as a person receiving a Social Security disability benefit?
Well, for one thing, there's a lot of misinformation about working while on benefits. As a work incentive planner, my role is to help participants understand how Social Security works. We distribute resources, information, so that they can make informed choices about their employment goals with an understanding of what will happen to their benefits. As a work incentive planner, my role is to answer questions about how earned income would affect SSDI, SSI, Medicare, Medi-Cal, and other public benefits. Working with a WIP helps someone understand that they don't have to rely on a disability check forever. Instead, they can take steps to improve their finances through a meaningful career. And I can't begin to tell you how rewarding that is when someone who's able to, for the first time, earn wages and take steps to fulfill their dreams, buy gifts for their family, pay for a vacation, or even start savings for their own home. So there's a lot of benefits to work and employment.
No, absolutely. Now that we've reached kind of the last few minutes of this Q&A, I wanted to ask if you had any final thoughts or takeaways you wanted to share with all of our attendees today.
I mean, there's so much information and so much to ponder on, but it's really important to take it upon ourselves, I mean, yourselves or whoever the participants are, as well as the support team, to be informed, to take ownership of your disability benefits, your monthly expenses, your finances, and learn to know how and what happens if you do this step, or if you want to do something new, or if you want to improve your life. You know, we are all here to support you at DOR as part of your service team. And you're not alone. And whether you're looking for a job for the first time or returning to work after an injury or illness, there's free resources to help you. And work incentive planners are available to provide ongoing support to answer your questions related to your SSA benefits and work, and hopefully giving you some peace of mind to focus on your work goal.
All right, awesome. All right, so Goli, we've reached kind of the end of this Q&A. Thank you so much for sharing all of this valuable information. It's always great to hear from our work incentive planners out in the field, kind of working directly with all of our disability beneficiaries, because we always like to know, how are things going, what's everyone's experience been, and I'm glad to see that you're having some really great successes with the individuals you're working with. So really great job, and thank you so much for being here today.